Alright my friends, today is April the 7th. It's about 30 minutes after the weekly open. It's time to cook the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So let's go ahead and get into some stuff. Let's start off with the boring bit. For events this week, we have the CPI on Wednesday and the PPI on Thursday. I don't really care that much about either of these things, but I just make a mental note of it. The only event, between the two that's going to produce any worthwhile vol is probably going to be the CPI, just depending on how the print comes out. But I won't be taking any trades or making any adjustments off this. The only thing that I might do is maybe position off intraday vol. If there's like a big whipsaw kind of move, then that might be a tradable, situation. But other than that, I'm not going to be really paying too much attention to any of these things moving forward. If you're interested in gaining access to the spaghetti template and learning how to properly utilize it, you should consider joining the Paragon group. Let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin. Starting off with the macro, obviously. Nothing's changed. That's going to be the TLDR across the board. The main levels that we're still focused on, $60,000 is macro support. If we lose 60K, then that would be definitely a trouble area. We don't need to really worry about that anytime soon. The other main level is, I'm not going to be calling it a specific number, but basically 69 to 68K. That is the important level that we want to see hold above. The longer we hold above that level, the more likely we are to get a breakout. As it stands, we're just continuing to build up this range that's forming in, the shape of a triangle, essentially. We'll look at that on medium time frame in more detail, but you guys are probably bored of hearing me talk about the triangle over and over again, but that's the main thing to be focused on right now, right? We're trading up into a significant area and we're continuing to compress. Price, was pretty high volatility for a minute, and at this point now volatility has shrunk quite a bit. So we're just gonna be continuing to observe this and wait for this range to kind of form out. One of the main things that we want to be paying attention to is this little doodle that I've shared a couple of times now. As we get into the later stages of the triangle, you want to be looking for compression into the highs. And that's generally what you will see when you're actually going to get the breakout. So I still think it's wise to be a little bit prepared for chop. And even though things look really good right now, if you look at like medium time frames and even high time frames, things look like we could just send at any moment. I still think that you want to be prepared for some chop, just because that's just how she goes, right? When things are obvious, the market almost never rewards the kind of obvious thing that everybody sees. So I think that we'll probably continue to build this triangle out bullishly and chop people up in the meantime. So that's pretty much it for the macro. There isn't too much to cover. The only other thing that I've been talking about a lot recently has been the summertime. So historically, as we get into the summertime, when we're in a bull trend, it gets boring. So that's one of the main reasons why I think that this triangle isn't going to break right now, is that we're just going to continue to break it out and just get lower and lower volatility. Essentially just doing something like this, just continuing to chop this up, blah, 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 blah. Keep making higher lows and probably making roughly equal highs / slightly lower highs, but I think they're going to be roughly equal still, right? That's my favorite triangle, as you guys have heard many times over, right? When you are making the higher highs, or the higher lows, excuse me, and then the roughly equal highs, that's the most bullish kind of triangle formation to see, and that's where we're at right now. So I think that that's basically the most bearish scenario that I see playing out, is us just continuing to chop and just get to a stage where we're actually super low vol, because the volatility has been really high for the past 5 months now, or longer than that actually. Probably should be rounding that up to since maybe the Q4 of last year. So the last several months have been pretty high volatility. I think that that's the most bearish scenario for me, is just building out a very low vol continuation of this range, which will ultimately end up I think resolving like this, giving us our next major leg across the board. Let's go ahead and jump into the medium time frame now. So like we had talked about several times, we were more or less expecting this to be the lower high zone, and that played out really well. This kind of setup, I know it looks obvious in hindsight, but even before, it played out, in my opinion, it was pretty obvious that this is the likely scenario. So I don't think that we're just going to yeet up and make any fresh highs or anything. So I think that we're just going to continue to see the continuation of the triangle getting built out. I've been covering this over and over again. It's been weeks since we've been talking about this, basically since we were over here. We started talking about the triangle meme. I know it's boring, but it is the main thing to be paying attention to. I don't like I said in one of my outlooks last week, I don't think when we were over here, I said that we would bounce and make a lower or a higher low. I don't think that we're just going to yeet through this, though. I think that we're probably going to continue to struggle with trading through the highs of this range and probably reject off supply here and then make another higher low across the board and just keep, chopping people up. And you know, entering into a low vol Bitcoin regime. Like I said, I think 2 weeks ago is when I first mentioned this, that if this thesis ends up playing out, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to take a little bit of a break. I've been trading a lot over the past like 15 months, maybe even 16 now. I don't even remember how long this cycle's been going on for. I'll probably be taking the time to catch up with friends and family and stuff. But when I am active trading, I will be shifting towards more intraday style. I absolutely want to have still an emphasis on building up the portfolio, you know, rebalancing it from, you know, just for a maximum kind of growth long term. But for active trading, it's all going to be probably shifting toward intraday, just because when you get lower vol, that's generally how I move to things. I'll shift into intraday, and if there's high vol shitcoins moving around, then I'll scalp those. But yeah, I mean, again, it's boring, right? But the triangle meme is the main focus for me, so I would continue to lean into this. I really think that this is how it's going to play out. Just to be clear, though, I mean, I could be wrong, and we could be like, you know, this is basically where we're at right now, our third higher low, and we just bounced, so we're like right here, basically in the diagram. Theoretically, I could be wrong, and we could just be ready to break out this week. That's pretty much it for Bitcoin. I think that you should be prepared for chop. I could be wrong, and then we could be ready to break out this week. Honestly, I'm kind of looking at it as win-win. If we break out this week, I'm going to be loving life, right? You know, it's going to be awesome. There's going to be so much opportunity if that's the case. If we don't break out this week and we keep chopping people up, it's not going to really negatively impact me, right? If we chop people up, I'm going to, you know, use that as an opportunity to maybe make some changes in my portfolio and buy up some more stuff, and probably take some time off and chill a little bit too. So let's go ahead and move on to the altcoin section. Go ahead and get into Sol. So Sol, my baby, this is like, you know, obviously my second largest holding, especially with how much it's appreciated this cycle already. The thesis across the board on Solana is that it's super bullish still. We want to see 175 hold. If 175 doesn't hold, that means we come back to like 150. If we do like a steep pullback towards like 150, by the time we get there, I think the yearly VWAP will have like converged with that level somewhat. Like, so basically buying like in the 140s, you know, deviation kind of argument. If you get like a big sell off into here, that's a buy for sure. I'm not really that horned up to add Solana to my portfolio just because I already am happy with my allocation, but there's maybe a chance where I buy more. But the TLDR on Solana is that, like, yes, we're probably gonna have to deal with chop right now because Bitcoin is chopping, but for the time, like, I'm just super bullish across the board on this, like, with a long-term mindset. So there isn't too much to say on that. Next big long-term play that I'm super excited about is Doge. This is my third largest bag. I know that it sounds retarded to you a little bit, but I have so much conviction in this. This is the safest meme to bet on, and it still has so much potential growth. What we're looking for right now is we want to see like the 18-cent region kind of hold. We sold through that and have reclaimed it recently. Saw a lot of Dogecoin bull posting on the timeline this weekend because it went up like, you know, 15% or something like that. Not even maybe 10%. Prepared for some chop on this, but I think it really is just like a matter of when, right? So as soon as Bitcoin stops like being low vol and chopping people to death, you know, something like Doge is going to send, right? So our next target is 34 cents. Beyond 34 cents, we're looking at like $1. Beyond $1, we're looking at like ridiculous targets at that point. I mean, the multiples are huge on this. So I think that where it's at, like the risk to reward is even though obviously I'm in from a lot lower, I still think that the risk to reward is like clearly defined here, and the trend is still looking good. It doesn't matter how you look at trends. I think that the trend is very much intact on this. So I'm liking Doge. That's the TLDR. And I'm going to keep being the annoying Doge guy on the timeline that tells everybody to buy it because I have that kind of conviction on this boy. That's pretty much it for the week, guys. Always feel free to share thoughts. If you have any feedback or anything, send it my way. And good luck.